Right, fellas, this is a bit mean talking about this when we're about to eat ourselves into a stupor over the next 3 weeks, but obesity costs the NHS a whopping £6.5 billion a year. And now the CEO of Weight Watchers, which is now called WW, I presume it's that and not were. I don't know. They've admitted that they got it wrong when it comes to dieting, while their ambassador, Oprah Winfrey, has revealed she uses weight loss drugs. The Hollywood star also dubbed obesity a disease. Is it? And in an era where you can take drugs to ward off craving carbohydrates, should we be taking our own health more seriously? Also, the other bit of this story is that Southwest Airlines, American airline, they've been accused of rewarding obesity with a new policy that grants very overweight passengers free extra seats. We're in a big mess, really, Matt, aren't we, on this when it comes to weight? Because we've got the body positivity movement saying it doesn't matter what size you are, you can be beautiful at all sizes. And I agree with that. I think you can be beautiful at all sizes, but your insides are going to look rubbish and your heart's not going to be good. You're going to have a fatty liver.
You can be beautiful at all sizes, absolutely, but it impacts your health. There's no way of escaping
So
that.
how do we square that for the moment?
I think that these weight loss drugs may be a huge part of the answer. I don't think we should shy away from it. And I think we shouldn't think that they are they're an alternative to people's responsibility, because even when you use them, you have to take responsibility. Carol Malone, often sat here, has taken them, talks very openly about it. I got all the goss and detail from her in the green room one morning. But they're not... And she still has to be very careful of what she eats and take responsibility.
Yeah, but they're not side effects free.
No, they're not, and that's why you have to use them very carefully and properly. The only thing is, anybody who invested shares in the... It's a Danish company, and it's now basically the company's worth more than the Danish economy, because people think that, particularly in the US, their use is just going to explode.
I find that so depressing, Alex. It feels like we've just given up. We've said to the corporations, you can just advertise, you can just feed. We can go into every restaurant and the meal is the size that would feed a family of 5.
Sure.
And we've got crisp packet machines on every train station platform. You've got buy one, get one free on the most unhealthy food. And now we've gone, fine, the drugs companies will save you. Just take an injection, eat what you like.
I think it's amazing how we fall for certain things, and you're talking about falling for advertising in that sense. This story is Weight Watcher advertising. They have a new product on the market. They're pivoting their business strategy. They're going to move into a drug regime now. And Oprah Winfrey, their brand ambassador, has a product to sell.
Yeah.
And my God, they're great at landing their story, aren't they? Here it is in the newspapers, and here we are, because of the newspapers, discussing it. And, you know, in the end, you've got to ask cui bono, who benefits? And the answer in benefiting is Weight Watchers do. They're going to benefit from selling this new drug because they've seen their numbers, I imagine, fall away of people doing their routines because so many people are using the drugs. Yeah. So now they're getting into the drugs.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. And the support for people who are taking the drugs as well, because you do have to continue to have support. It's not a kind of magic bullet and you're sorted. You have to be on the regime. So they're therefore with services, which is the new buzzword of corporate speak.
Yeah, but you say you've got to exercise self-restraint, but the whole point of the injections is that you don't want to eat the foods, right, that you fancy.
Yeah, what you have to do is you have to eat certain foods, and you have to eat in a different way. Sort of smaller portions, but more often. I think we should.
It's an appetite suppressant as well, though, isn't it? So you're less hungry.
Yeah. So sometimes one of the things about being responsible when you've taken them is you have to force yourself to eat, and make sure that you don't not eat. So that's part of the responsibility, because obviously you're going to run into health problems if you're not getting the right foods and getting the nutrients that you need.
But there is
it's not a responsibility-free zone.
But there is also not a side effects-free zone when it comes to drugs.
No.
Every single drug can have potential side effects.
Yeah, and the idea that we should mass medicate people because they can't control their own appetite is a silly one. Look, it's a very unfashionable view these days, but in any free society, the number of fat people is going to correlate very closely with the number of people who've chosen to be fat. Because, like me, they eat and drink too much and they don't exercise enough. I'm certainly not preaching from any sort of moral superiority here. I've got a spare tyre because I like to eat rich foods, I like to have a drink, and I don't like to work out very much. Now, I am aware of those things, right, and it is for me to fix it. Now, if there was a pill that would fix it with very few consequences, I'd probably take it.
Would you take these drugs?
I don't probably won't.
I don't want to give them to you because you're too slim. But...
Well, that's very kind of you to say, but I would take a pill if I thought there was no consequences. But I'm like you, and I think actually there are some consequences. But a side effect of the consequence is me thinking it's no longer up to me to be responsible for my own body.
Yeah, mentally. In terms of mentally what we're doing, I mean, you know, I'm going to, as my kids would say, you're deep in it, Mum. But mentally, what we're doing to humanity by saying, don't worry, it's not your responsibility
But there are lots of people who tried everything.
It's like a spiritual vacuum. I'm really going to deep it, Matt.
No, there is.
It's a spiritual vacuum that we're filling with food.
Yes, I agree. But just think about those people. Yes, and that's actually a lot of people when they look at controlling their eating is looking at their values, looking at the pressure they're under and the emotions. That's a big. But there are lots of people who've tried everything and who, for medical reasons, when we were kids, it was glands, but actually there is truth behind it that some people are just naturally larger.
For a very, very small minority.
Yeah, absolutely. But for them, this drug is going to be revolutionary.
Eating too much, drinking too much, and not exercising enough.
But it does. But I think everybody has an emotional relationship to food. Everybody, whether you eat to reward yourself, or even if you don't eat because you have an emotional relationship to food. Like we all have that. I think we neglect. We've kind of like given up on contemplating that, aren't we? No one thinks about that. We don't talk to kids about that.
Well, I think also, we don't teach kids to cook in schools very much anymore because we think other things are a priority. And also because we're told things are now low in this or low in that, we think we can have it. But we don't actually realise it may be low in one thing but high in another. It may be low in sugar, but it may be high in fat.
And what about these airline seats, Alex? Does that feel fair? If you have sort of medical equipment, you have to pay for that second seat.
If you need 2 seats on an aircraft, you should pay for 2 seats on an aircraft. That said, I don't believe it is interfering with a private business's ability to operate as it wants to operate.
Yeah.
But it would actually discourage me from flying on an airline that's giving people won't give people who need medical equipment or people who are taking their their musical instruments because they play in an orchestra or tall people because people who are think of Mark Dolan at 6'6", probably the tallest person in this.
He's also one of the skinniest people.
Absolutely,
I've ever seen as well.
sure is. I'm 6'2" and it's pretty hard in an airline seat. I actually have a friend and his mum. They're both stewards for this airline in question in the States, and I won't repeat the reaction because it would get us taken off the air. It would need a bleep to this policy because they think it's daft. So this seems to me that maybe they'll have a rethink.
What if there's a weight issue? Like if one person weighs as much as two people.
Well, of course, in the early days of flying, people had to be weighed. It was like a boxing ring. People had to be weighed.
Croydon Airport used to weigh in.
Yeah, it's just like a boxing match. Absolutely, yeah.
I have to say, I'm quite glad those days are gone. I think maybe they will be in the new year.
As you went through in front of your fellow passengers.
Yeah.